Good afternoon and welcome to Sunday Night Live. That day is upon us again. Just getting off of a week's vacation on the Jersey Shore. Still a little bit into a little bit of a food coma, but the show must go on. And I'm very excited because this evening I have none other than the Scott Joseph from J&L Marketing. And a lot of you guys know him. One or two may not. So Scott, why don't we just jump right in and you tell everybody a little bit about you, how you got in the business and stuff like that, and then we'll get started.
All right. Well, first off, Paul, thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it a lot. I see Tully Williams just came into the chat. Hello, Tully. How you doing?
It's all about the hours.
Into the comments. About me, I got into the business in 1988. So it's a funny story. My dad was a very successful general manager for the Jeff Weiler Group, who has a ton of stores here in the Cincinnati and Louisville area. And, I was working as a lot boy. And so as a lot boy, I'm at the University of Louisville right now. And all the time I'm asking my dad, let me sell, let me sell, let me sell. I wanted to do that while I was going through school. During my lot boy breaks, Paul, I literally would go into the break room, and I was the only one that watched these. I'd go in and punch in the VCR back in those days. I'll show my age a little bit.
VCR.
The VCR. It might have been VHS.
Oh, man.
It was a big machine. But I'd punch in sales training tapes specific to the car business. And I don't remember which sales trainer it was, but I'd watch those during my lunch break. And of course, when you're 18, 19 years old, you think you cannot fail. And one day my dad, he kept rejecting me. And one day he was, we're living in Louisville and he's away in California on a 20 group. And so I call up one of the Chevy store, which at the time was Jeff's biggest store, and it's up in Cincinnati. And I tell him I want a job. All right. And so Dad, my mom know nothing about this. I'm still living at home. I think they passed me on. At the time, he was a finance manager, but he was getting ready to become, his name was Stu Luganbuehl. And at the time, he was getting ready to take over as sales manager for Jeff Weiler Chrysler Plymouth, which was, 2 or 3 miles away from the Chevy store, both up in Cincinnati. And so I talked to Stu. He goes, well, when can you get up there to interview? I said, I can do it now. I'll get in my car and hop on up. So I drove the hour and a half up to Cincinnati. I interviewed with Stu. He hired me on the spot. Pretty common practice, I think, in the auto business. And hey Ed, let's face it. I got hired because of who I was with my dad's success. So my dad at the time was by far their most successful salesman or general manager. And when he was selling cars, him and another guy used to battle it out, but it was consistent, always 1-2. And so there was a lot of success there, and they probably hoped the apple didn't fall far from the tree with Dad. Probably fell, especially in those first 2 years, probably fell a little bit further than they thought it would. So I went up there. I moved out before my dad and mom, they came home from the 20 group, and I had moved out of the house and moved up to Cincinnati. Moved in.
Wow, no notice, just gone.
Out. So I thought, oh gosh. So I dropped out of school, by the way, to do this. So I dropped out of school to sell cars. And the way I looked at it was I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be a general manager. All right. That was my whole goal. And I did not feel I needed school to become a general manager. I watched my dad do it. And of course, being naive at that age and inexperienced, I thought, well, I can be better than my dad. And so I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm not going to waste 4 years of my life when I could be making a lot of money and get to that position a lot faster. So long story short, I end up, I think I'm up there for a month or two struggling. And Mr. Weiler comes in one day, and I knew Mr. Weiler well personally because I had he had taken my dad and given us tickets and every now and then joined us, whether it was Cincinnati Reds games, whether it was back then WWF wrestling front row ticket.
Oh, yeah.
So I just idolized Mr. Weiler, right? And so he comes in the store one day, calls me into his office. I go in there and I think, all right, things are going to start happening. I'm moving. Here we go. All right. And he goes, first question right out of his mouth was, why'd you quit school? So I thought, well, this is going to go the way I want. I said, because I didn't feel like I needed to become a general manager. And I feel like I can sell, and I know I'll hustle and work hard. And I gave him all the same shit that I said in my interview, right, with Stu. And he starts telling me, well, when we're ready to look at you, people are going to have to know. He starts talking all these things that I would have had to have learned in school. And I'm thinking to myself, my dad didn't know any of this stuff. If I know how to sell cars, everything else will take care of itself. That's what I'm thinking at 19.
Right.
And so where he lost me was when he goes, in 10 years, when I'm considering you for a GM position. And I'm
10
thinking,
years.
Thank you. And I'm thinking to myself, 10 years? I didn't drop out of school to wait 10 years. That's the whole reason I dropped out of school. Right?
Little shift in the plan there, Scott.
That threw up the plan. So for about that first year, there were times we had a really great salesperson there, and I was unable to beat him. He had a good book of business that was always coming in, and not to give excuses, but he just was a lot better than me, especially then. But I was consistently starting to get into that top 5, top 10 throughout all of Jeff's stores, because he'd bring in these monthly meetings where we'd all get together for breakfast with all his rooftops and things like that. After a year, I kept bugging. I want to be a manager. I want to be a manager. And anybody that's out there listening, serviceman, the people I sell to now with J&L, they're probably like, this idiot. I look back and think, what an idiot. I literally was upset with them because they weren't considering me for this stuff. So I left the Weiler organization for about a week, down to another store, a few stores down. They came and picked me up, the whole thing. And let's face it, I only got that job because of my dad's reputation as well. And so, I go down there. Weilers recruited me back.
It's called leverage.
Yeah, the Weilers
leveraging your technology.
the Weilers ended up recruiting me back after about a week, and I eventually got into the Chevy store, which is where I wanted to be initially. Anyways, it was a high volume store, and then I got there, and those guys ate me up. I mean, this was a group of I'm 20, 21 at the time, around 20 at the time. And these guys tore me up, buddy. I mean, these guys were out on the highway waving cars in. I was like, holy shit. I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here, but
whatever you want, man.
It was unbelievable, the aggressiveness and how hard they worked to get ups. And I wasn't doing good. I started getting down on myself. And of course, it couldn't have been me. I just needed to be taught by my dad. So I ran with my tail between my legs back down to Louisville, got a job working with my dad, was successful there.
How did it go? I mean, how did the conversation go that you left in the first place? Not just that you left, but you left in the middle of the night, man.
I was shocked. It went 100% better than I thought it would. And so literally I thought, oh, they're going to tear me up on this, but they were very calm because I'd already moved out and made the decision. You have to understand too, my dad's very tight. So he was probably thinking of all the money he was saving, not paying for college. So I went down there and we started having direct mail event sales at the store. And we were doing them through a good friend of mine who is the L, Pat Luck. The L was the L in J&L Marketing. So he's telling me about all the money he's making, and he starts recruiting me to start my own company. And so I'm 22 at the time, and I made the decision, all right, come January 1, we'll start J&L Marketing. And this was in 1991. I was 22, and I went in, told my dad what I was going to do, and he looked at me and just kind of shook his head and said, you'll be back here in 3 months. So
long 3 months, man.
30 years later, I'm doing all right. But, I'm very competitive when it comes to things like that with my dad. So that kind of helped motivate me. But he was also my best customer for a long time. So did everything he could to help support and give me referrals and things like that. But, with J&L, tons of growth. Because if you hear this story that I just told you, I didn't come into that job with any marketing experience. All I came into the job was, and I look back on it now and I think, wow, I'm really lucky about this in the sense that I didn't know any better, was all I knew was car sales and how to sell cars because I had been doing it for 2 years now, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And so when I saw how people were successful at it, I also saw when we ran these events, the support that we didn't have or what could have made things go better. And so when I set this up, I set up J&L and I set up the events more or less just for, wow, if I was going to do this, what would these salespeople and the GM and the salesman, what would they absolutely want in terms of support that would help that? And that's all I knew. And so as I look back on that, I was lucky in the sense of I didn't know that the best marketing strategies start from the sales process and work their way back to marketing. If I had known anything about marketing at the time, I probably didn't have the experience on the sales selling cars. I probably would have started that in reverse. I probably would have started with the marketing, gave two shits about what's going to happen with the car salespeople, and tried to convince everybody that the marketing was great. But the process worked backwards to the marketing, and I think it was a big key to our success. So Pat Luck is a successful real estate agent up in Cincinnati, Ohio. Sandy, I'm just reading some of the comments down here.
Wait, somebody actually got out of the car business?
He got out. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's very few and far between.
I know. Well, so Pat Luck for a long time he was the owner and the guy who originally started Auto Success Magazine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get that.
He stayed in auto for a long time, but then went up to Cincinnati and did that. So I think
Let's just get caught up on a couple of comments here. So we know Tully said hi. He said, I ate well. Yes, Tully, I'm afraid I did eat very well this week. Russ Mann, hello, everyone. Hey, Russ, great to see you, man. Paul Machine, Scotty sipping on fine bourbon and maybe a cigar. It's one of the treats we earn. Ed Roberts, hello, gentlemen. He says, Paul says, you got hired because you drive an hour and a half. You showed you want to, a trait I look for in every recruit. But that's the thing with the car business, man. You just have to go out and do it.
Yeah.
And even if you don't know it, you just have to go out and do it.
Well, I had already had a year and half a semester under my belt of college, which is a year and a half a semester more than a lot.
Right, right. We got John Frazier on. John Frazier, he's kicking some butt down there. I'm liking what I'm seeing. And Sandy Cerami, relentless optimism, a highly valued personality trait for sure. And Justin Searle, great stuff. I really look up to Scott. You know, I do too, man, which is why I wanted you on the show. I've been following your stuff for a while. We've been friends for a while, and I like what you're doing.
Thank you.
And Kenneth Dunner, oh my God, Scott Joseph is such a badass dude. I love this. So
thank you, Kenneth.
Let's talk about owner loyalty and retention.
Yeah.
Because here's what I see, and you probably see the same thing, or you might see something different. It seems like every store you go into and you ask them about retention, and all of a sudden everybody's chest goes out a little bit more than it normally is, and they start beating, and we're at 80, 90% retention. But I've plugged in a lot of software that kicks back after it looks at all the data, and it kicks back like, I don't know, 20, 22%, which is a far cry off from the 80 to 90% that everybody says. So talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing.
Well, you're both right. So if you look at how long through the ownership of any one car that we might buy from a dealership, the dealership through that period of ownership only retains about 22% of those customers. All right. So you're accurate in that.
Yeah.
Where the dealers are accurate, and the reason they have to address this, and it's much more difficult for them from an owner loyalty standpoint, is They actually, if I was to buy from your dealership a Honda, all right,
Yeah.
and now it's time for me to buy and replace that car, regardless of well, I don't want to say that, but the reality is this: if I make the decision, most of the time I'm making the decision to buy another brand. Well over half. I think it's what Honda's probably right at a 44%, 45% owner loyalty from a brand standpoint.
Yeah.
All right. The problem, the dealers, if I do make the decision to buy another Honda, the dealer actually holds or has an owner loyalty or retention of 87% for that particular situation. The problem is
the customer buying the brand, not necessarily the repeat.
If I am your customer,
yeah,
and I bought a Honda from you, and I make the decision, most of the time I'm making a decision on my next car not to buy a Honda. I'm buying something else. But if I decide to buy another Honda and I still live, relatively close or where I lived when I bought it originally, 87% of the time I'm going to repeat and buy from you. The problem is the reason that the overall loyalty is at 22% is because most of the defection has nothing to do with the dealer. It has more to do with the brand.
Okay.
And then you got to take into consideration that everybody moves. It's not just the brand. People move or do other things over the course. The length of someone owning the car is no longer 3.5, 4 years anymore. So a lot can happen in that time frame as well. So both measurements are right. The problem is the dealer has to understand. Dealers have done an outstanding job from a customer experience. They really understand the importance of servicing and doing things right by the customer, I believe, today when you compare it to, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
I'm a long way from what it was.
Correct. I mean, they're all about it. And the problem is, so why is defection or owner loyalty continue to slide if all the service and the experience keeps getting better? And a lot of that has stuff to do that is out of their control. And so they've really got to do a great job, continuing to improve the experience, especially in service, and then in the fixed op side. And then at the same time, what is their overall marketing strategy to previous customers? So a lot of times those are, with the exception of, say, a few sale notifications or an owner loyalty or reminder program with coupons and stuff like that, there usually isn't one.
Or they're chasing the lost soul after they haven't seen him in a long time.
Correct. And here's the other challenge they have. How do they typically do that? So the normal dealer, the typical dealer, sits there and says they struggle with really understanding the data, so they do basic segmentation, which is fine, and it has its role. But when you do that, you sit here and say, all right, who are my inactive customers? Who are my lost customers? And if you're like some of the luxury owners, you might say, well, if they haven't been here in 18 months, that's a lost customer. All right. If I drive 35,000 miles a year, I can assure you I was a lost customer long before the 18 months. I was a lost customer maybe at the 12-month mark, right? So you got to look at every customer different. But the biggest mistake I think that people make, and this is even outside of auto, you can't expect to get a person to come back to you with the same type of offers, even if the amount is different, that they ignored when they left you to begin with.
Right. You have to nurture that relationship from the very beginning.
Correct. It's a completely different thing. Consistent. Correct. It's a conquest thing. Now with dealers, it's much easier, in my opinion, to get conquest business through service than it is on the front side. And so that, you can do that, but the key when I'm going after long or lost customers, and we're also segmenting people that maybe got a foot out the door, someone that's at risk, right? They're showing the same trends now that your customers who had defected are showing, or showed back before they defected. When you can,
they're getting close to the end of the warranty.
Yeah, well, that's clearly a line in the sand, right? Where that drops off. That's where most OEM loyalty goes down, and people start hitting the independent repair shops. So you've got to start hitting people with offers that are unique and different and offer tremendous value, much more value than just, hey, here's an oil change coupon.
Right. Or the generic, we need your car.
Correct. The customer was receiving all of those things when they were still a customer and then still made the decision to leave. So to think that, hey, I'm going to make this oil change go from, $50 to $30 or whatever somebody's amount might be. I guess it depends on which brand they represent. Changing the amount is not going to grab the attention that you need to be able to justify or get the ROI you're really looking for there.
We got a couple of comments on the side here. Tully, retention is key. It's always been way ahead of whatever was in second place.
Yep.
All machine out of control. Identify quickly those 5%ers who want to take advantage of your customer service mantra. Don't treat the other 95% as a 5%. Yeah, a lot of times they're just forgotten about.
Correct.
Sandy, Scott, how do you see service marketing as a profit driver and a retention tool?
Well, a lot of people, Paul, on digital marketing don't understand all the things that can be done. And first off, if you're looking, we have an opportunity in the car business where we should be communicating more frequently with our previous customers for service and fixed ops than we should on buying a car, right? Because people are going to go, I buy a car from you, from your store, and I go through this honeymoon phase where I don't need service for a while, right? You should be doing whether it's new car clinics and different things. And I know with COVID, we've got to come up with new ideas. Maybe we're not bringing in people into clusters the way we were for a while. But you do other things. You go through this honeymoon phase, but once that's over, you're in the maintenance phase, right? You're doing everything in your power to prove how great you guys are, give them an incredible experience. So you're improving your chances when they do decide. And so you brought up a very good fact, and that is once the once the warranty goes out, all right, so 3 years, 36,000 miles, loyalty drops. And the reason for that is perception is that independent shops are going to do things and do work, whether it's quicker, more conveniently, and for less money. All right. And so
that's not the fact.
That is correct. And if you think about it, I recently just was in Dallas with David Boyle. And I know you know David.
He was just on my show last week.
He's got a phenomenal, it's not a theory, it's not a philosophy, it's an actual strategy on replacing the oil change with tire measurements as a frequency thing. And I agree with it 100%.
A data-driven strategy. Yeah.
And so I love what he's doing with it. But the biggest thing is think about how people, let's assume once they're out of warranty and it's time for you to have some service work on your car. All right. Whether your engine light comes on or you get a notification from your car saying it's due, maybe you hear a rattle, something doesn't feel right. Who knows? Most people nowadays, they're not going and doing and scheduling a preventative thing. They're usually reacting to something, right? Yeah. They're reacting to the notification or the alert, whatever it might be.
What's that light?
Correct. That's exactly right. What's that noise? This, whatever. And so once that happens, they're pulling out their phone, right? And they're just saying, all right, oil change near me, auto repair near me. That's what pops up as soon as you start hitting auto repair. Google will self-populate the near me part, and you're just going to click that and you're going to go in. And it's funny because for my interview with David, I actually did a search for a dealer the night before with a dinner, auto repair near me. And I went 6 pages and still hadn't found a dealer's ad.
It's crazy, man. I do these searches from the dealer's parking lot and it takes me down the street.
Correct. And so dealers have to understand, if you look at the ad budgets for the fixed op side versus the variable side, it is night and day. If the service managers who are listening knew what their GMs are spending in variable and giving what budgets are going to digital marketing, right?
In one campaign.
Correct. And so I'm sitting here and we have the ability to do something that the auto industry's never had before. And I know that a lot of people will take their DMS list and put it into Facebook with customer match and display and stuff like that. But we've actually got the ability to do it through paid search. And so what we're able to do with that, and the reason that is so important with the scenario that I just gave you, think about this for a second. I'm in here and I'm doing this search. You're a dealer and you're now have uploaded your DMS into the Google paid search, your AdWords account, right? So now Google has recognized me as your previous customer. I'm in their system, right? I've got Gmail, I've got other things. They got all this data. Basically, they are the world's biggest data provider. And so they've matched me, so they know what I'm doing online. And you have now, as an intelligent dealer, have set up an intelligent account structure that is completely different from me. Because normally you would never bid on terms like oil change near me. It's too generic. Right. You'll never be able to compete with the Jiffy Lubes of the world who have national budgets thrown at them, right?
They're actually chasing that business aggressively.
Correct. Well, they're a lot like FedEx, what they did to the post office, right? We don't want that, or that, but we love that part of the business, and I think that's what we're going to do. So it's the same thing. And so, here I am as a customer now, and I go through this, and I sit here, and I do my search, right? Well, now, because you've uploaded and you've got an intelligent bid strategy on me, I might be worth more to you. I am basically, for 3 years, I've been going to your service department, by the way. And now I just did a search. I know where you are. I've been coming to you. So why would I be searching at that moment if I need to get work done? If I hear a rattle or if a car alerts me, I'm probably going to call you, right? I'm going to probably call you or schedule. But if the fact that I did a search, it's basically like your customers are raising their hands saying, I'm about to defect. And this is one of the micro moments. This is one of the key moments. And guess what? Most dealers, 99% of them, will never be in that search. And it's not that they're not always doing some type of a lot of dealers will do some type of paid search and service, but what they don't do is
do so little, man.
Well, there's not as much to spend there as you think. The problem is, though, they'll never be able to outbid the national brands. They'll never be able to outbid Jiffy Lube. Jiffy Lube can afford to spend a lot more than the independent dealer. So you have to outmarket and outsmart those people, not outspend them. And you can exploit their weakness. Their weakness is they don't know who your customer is. You do. So by taking your DMS data and making it work, and it takes a lot of extra work to do it, which is why it's not done most of the time for people, is why if you ask dealers to use your DMS dealer or data in digital marketing, it's why most of them will say, yeah, I do. And then you pull it up and no, they don't. Not one of them does. They do it in Facebook, right? And because that's very easy to do. It doesn't take up that much time. But to build out the right account structure and the right bid strategy and all the different campaigns that have to happen within a previous customer list, it's like doubling the size of what you have to manage if you're a digital agency.
But you'll get the returns on it.
Oh, all day long. And more importantly, I am now front and center when I do that generic search, which you would never even put in your keywords anyways. All right. So now no matter what I search, your ad is coming to me. It'll be in those top 1 to 2, 3 at the worst in terms of the ad placement. I am front and center. And more importantly, obviously all the text is adjusting to make sure it's 100% relevant to whatever I'm searching for. If I'm looking for a deal or whatever. So the customer match within paid search to answer Sandy's question, I think is one of the most powerful things from an owner loyalty standpoint. And I think a lot of dealers are really missing out because it's not something that they've always done, but it's really important that they move forward to do that.
Yeah, I remember when I heard you talk about this before. I mean, it's brilliant. And like you said, they'll tell you they're doing it, but the reality is they're not.
Correct.
We got a couple comments to get caught up on here. Sandy Brahmi Tires, warranty experience, Confluence. Robert, unreliable wait times are still unreliable regardless of price. That is 100% correct. But here's the funny thing too, Scott.
Robert does a great job when it comes to like customer experience type stuff.
Yeah.
He really does.
Here's the funny part. And this is where I think a lot of dealers are missing out a little bit. If I've nurtured the relationship, then, as you said, they should never end up in that search. Whether it's nurturing the relationship as a sales customer or when a conquest comes in, because let's face it, half the cars that come into your shop today did not buy from you for whatever reason.
Yep.
But if I take the time to go out and meet that person, to make them feel welcome, like a guest in their home, as they say at Lexus, and I then nurture that relationship going forward, there's no reason why anybody should whip out their phone to search for anything. Because in a perfect point is, I got a call the other day from a customer that bought a Lexus from me 2 cars ago. When I worked at Lexus, her car was just totaled. She's calling me. I'm out of that store. When did I leave that store? 99, wait.
A lot of things have changed since then.
But she called me, right? I'm the guy that she called for advice on what to do next.
Yeah.
And I've been out of stores for a long time. So if you nurture that relationship, they shouldn't even be doing that search.
Correct. So
Terry, hold on a second.
Yep.
I just want to get caught up here because sometimes I fall a little behind. Terry Torlane, thank you. He says, everyone believes customer service is imperative. Do you feel service departments are delivering it? What do you think?
Well, I stated this earlier. I think that the dealer's done an incredible job, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, improving customer service. It'll never be perfect. So,
perfect.
You know, I can think of organizations or businesses where I would say they're, you know, if I travel and I stay at a Four Seasons or a Ritz-Carlton, I would put their customer service up against anyone, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've had my frustrating moments with both of those brands.
Sure.
You know, same with American Express, right? So there are brands that are well known to be outstanding, but you're still going to have problems. And I feel like in the auto, we tend to focus on what we do wrong, which I'm guilty of that because I want to fix those things, right?
Sure.
I want to quit looking at what we're doing right. I probably need to celebrate some of those things more, but you know, I want to see what's wrong so we can fix it. So, you know, I think COVID probably helped a lot of dealers. I will tell you, there's a lot of things that have happened as a consumer that I hope never go away. You know, I hope, you know, when this passes and everything returns to where we can shake each other's hands without, you know, having to think about things.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, I hope that I can run errands when my wife sends me out on errands. I hope I can make 3 or 4 of those stops and never have to get out of my car again. I kind of like that, you know? And so when we're talking about, I think we have been forced to deliver better service in some areas, the pickup, the drop-offs in service. I think those are going to be here to stay. And I think
definitely
the dealers, David Boyle brings it up great. And I saw it mentioned in one of the comments, I think from Sandy. Think about not only the warranty, right? But when do your tires typically go out, or when do they need changing?
Around the time of the warranty.
They tend to happen around that time, and tires are not cheap. So when you need
1,200 easy.
Yeah, and so this kind of also goes to what you were talking about as well, because I agree with you. It starts before I have to start marketing to these people to try and get them back. For one thing, it's much harder to get them back than it is to keep them.
Oh,
So,
5 times.
so obviously, all the stuff from a customer experience has to improve. I would look at pickup and drop-offs being more permanent. I love what Brian Benstock is doing at Paragon Honda, and so from service standpoint, love that. And so,
To that point, the funny part was, what does it cost? And he says it costs $60.
yeah.
But it doubled the RO amount.
Because it's been proven and the research has shown people are willing to pay more to be able to get the type of service that they want that works best for them.
Yeah.
Right. And so, when I was going back to with the tires, right, and the warranty. So here you are, you're out of warranty now. Now you're coming up and you need a new set of tires, or you're getting close. That's not under warranty, and that's an expensive item. So you're sitting there, when you're thinking about new tires, is there anybody on here that thinks the first thing that comes into their head for tires is a dealer?
Absolutely not.
So I go back to the marketing and the process. It has to go beyond just customer experience. Like I said, our customer experience has been improving and improving and improving for the last 10 to 15 years, but the ownership loyalty keeps declining. Yeah. And so we have to communicate. If you're going to get into the tire business, like David proposes, which I love, because he says, this is what people absolutely need. You need to think there's a reason that the Firestones and of the world, or anybody with a tire in their name, right, are getting the majority, or that's the perception when I need them. That's the first person I think of.
Yeah.
They're not just selling tires. They're selling all the other stuff that we as dealers want.
Right.
We want brakes. We want all the other stuff. They're doing all those things. And so good marketers know that sometimes you need to have people come in, right, with a break even, or sometimes even at a loss, as long as you know your total gross on the entire or the average transaction.
Right. Big picture.
And that's why dealers did a good job for many years with oil change offers that were either at a loss or right at cost, right? Because
nobody makes money on oil change.
Well, because they knew once they got them there, they were going to be able. There were definitely it would be inevitable. Other things needed to be repaired, and they'd get that business.
Yeah.
The problem with relying on the oil change is it doesn't happen as frequently as it used to happen.
Right.
Right. So as a dealer, I can't count on a customer coming into service 3 to 4 times a year to get an oil change anymore. So I've lost this automatic thing here to keep the relationship going. And so you have to find other ways to do that. And it's one of the reasons I like tires. If as a dealer, I want the consumers out there to think about me, number one, for anything automotive related. Yeah. And I'm going to steal something from David on this. The dealers have such a huge advantage on this. They have better facilities than all the independents.
Hands down.
They clearly are able to hire better, and this is no insult to the independent repair, but they have better overall. They have a better overall employees. They have better processes. They're held to a higher standard, not just by the customer, but by the OEM.
They get it beat up on both sides.
They can do it. And so here now they are. You don't hear of a lot of independent auto repairs doing drop-off and delivery. The dealers have the ability to do so much more from a customer experience. Where they're getting destroyed is on the marketing side. And it's because they compete against national stuff. And I go back to, you have to outsmart and outmarket, because you're never going to outspend them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Let's get caught up on a couple here. We got Paul Machine coming in with, in times like this, the quickest way dealers can capture the attention of an OEM customer is open recalls. That's a brilliant. I mean, to bring somebody in on the premise of, I'm going to fix something that affects your safety and performance and not charge you for it is brilliant.
Yep. And
our customer can be converted to high-paying ROs, and more importantly, a trade-in and other sale. The life cycle continues. I think it's 5 times if they complete the service schedule. it's 5 times more likely that they're going to buy the next car from you, even if they didn't buy this one.
Correct.
And another thing I'm going to throw out there also that not many people are doing, as a matter of fact, I only know of a couple of dealers that are doing it. You know, when you're losing some of this business at the point of defection, okay, here's a novel concept. How about a sliding scale on the labor, right? If I've got a 2-year-old car, I might be okay to pay X amount of dollars for the labor, but if I have a 10-year-old car, I might not be willing to pay that same labor rate. And I've seen other dealers successfully have a sliding scale and are capturing a lot of older cars that most dealers are not. So just throwing that out there.
I think that's an interesting approach. I think that's a great thing we could tee up there for Tully or Ed.
Yeah.
If they're still out there.
Yeah.
I'd like their opinion on that. Yeah.
Yeah, Woody, Tully, if you're still on, I'd love to get your take on this.
Yeah.
Anytime Steve says bingo, nurture the relationship. Absolutely. That's what I said. I got a call. This lady was probably 2 cars ago that she bought from me, but she still calls me, and I still have customers from way back in the day that still call me. I've had the same cell phone number. So they call me, a guy that's not even on the retail side of things, to get advice on the retail side of things. Paul Machine says, I got a guy, he'll take care of you. Absolutely. Become the guy or the gal.
Yep.
Sandy, lead people, manage processes, policies, and metrics. You can always improve what you can measure. If you don't know where you've been, you'll have no idea how to get to where you want to go. Robert Sebastian gives Paul Machine the thumbs up emoji. Tully says service manager needs to be in the drive from opening to 10 a.m. That is 100%. You know what I love? I love when the dealer principal is in the drive first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the team performs a little bit differently when the DP is in the drive than when that person is not. Sandy says it's easier to rehabilitate the sick than raise the dead.
Where I'm not seeing some of these. Where that's great. Oh,
right in the comments. Oh my God, Sandy, I freaking love that, man. That is I've not heard it that way before, but I'm going to use that. That's that's great. Hashtag foot stomping. Amen, Tully. Robert Sebastian, we are the tire store should be mentioned in all marketing, including the showroom. Absolutely.
100%.
Sandy says, nope, so go ahead.
Well, I was going to say to that, a lot of things that David talks about is he goes, quit selling when the tires are red. You need to start that conversation at the green.
Yep.
So
from the hello, you had me at hello.
Yeah. You got to start that conversation well in advance.
They have to know that that's what you do, because let's face it, that's one of the highest ticket items that you're going to see on this car and in the foreseeable future.
It's one of the reasons they defect, because here's the thing about defection, right? There's only 3 reasons people defect from you. 1, you pissed them off. All right. Yeah. 2, they moved. Or 3, for what we're about to talk about here in a second, you didn't really do anything wrong, but they kind of just left you and then forgot about you. And so in the case of tires, and especially when it usually coincides with when the warranty expires, once someone leaves and you're no longer in that thought process,
they're gone.
It just doesn't. Sometimes they just go away by nothing you did or nothing they did. You just were forgotten.
Luck and timing.
Correct. So what do? We've got to make sure that we don't let that happen, and that's why you have to get good on the tire side.
Yeah, no, it's. I pinned Sandy's comment, man, because that's brilliant. Easier to rehabilitate the sick than raise the dead.
Have you seen Sandy's show on Monday nights?
I have not. What time is it on Monday nights?
I want to say it's either 7:30 or it's 8:30, but he'll chime in here on the chat, I'm sure. But let me just say this. All right. I say this because you clearly have less hair than me. Mine's thinning every single day.
What gave that away?
Sandy Cerami is his guest on there, and it looks like they coordinate hairstyles before they get on with the big wave that they got going on there. It's pretty impressive. So if you haven't checked it out, you need to.
I'll have to check. I'll have to watch it on the rerun because my wife's show is on Monday nights.
All right.
John Bannon, relational mindset versus transactional mindset creates a high value experience. High value experience starts before customer buys and continues way after they have bought. Absolutely 100% correct. John Frazier, however many dealers are failing at all those standards, quote unquote.
Yep.
Sandy says, John Bannon, spot on. Tully, pickup and delivery is the new standard, 100%. Robert Sebastian, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second.
Hey, Paul, one thing,
Yeah.
one thing with John's comment, which is spot on. Whether you're selling the car, so we're kind of focusing on the front end here or on the back end here, but even on the front end, your customer experience doesn't start once they buy or once they show up or make it. Your customer experience in many cases, especially today, is online. And so
Right.
in fixed ops, people want information on what things cost just as easily on the back as they do on the front.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, a lot of the tools that dealers have to use on the backside, fixed ops is an afterthought there as well, because most of the GMs focus on new. And so all these vendors tend to gravitate to give them more on the new, give them more. What else do they need here?
All front loaded.
Correct. They're front loaded, these websites. And to do a really good job on the back, it's just not there. And so that's just something to consider. So, a lot of these dealers have probably got to put a little bit more time in that.
Well, it's funny when
principles on the backside that they do on the front.
yeah, you're right though. The most of the effort is on the front. You walk into 100 dealerships, ask them about budgets.
Correct.
And the percentage of what goes to the front compared to what goes in the back. I mean, to your point, yes, you'll never outspend the other guys,
Nope.
but they're not even. Most of them are not even spending anything. If almost very little in the back.
All those people that are spending, I mean, if you saw some of the repair shops ads that come up in front of a car dealer's, there's no way that they should be able to outmarket a car dealer.
Right.
And so, there's only so many Jiffy Lubes, right? There's only so many national chains in every single town. Most of them are mom and pop, third party type stuff where you're like, but they're still showing up well in advance of car dealers, and sometimes you never see the dealer. And so the key is outsmarting them and outmarketing them, and you don't need as much on the fixed side from a digital standpoint as you might need on the front. But you can't just put up generic stuff. You have to put up and put the same amount of time and effort building out that account structure for fixed as you would for the front end.
Yeah, so that you even show up.
Correct.
Let's see. Sandy says, don't make customers have to think. Let's make it easier for them to come in, say yes, and stay with us. 100%. We had the hotel that we stayed at on the Jersey Shore. I'll never stay there again ever. They clearly missed the customer experience part of the training and hospitality. And, the first word out of their mouth is, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
No, we can't do that. Shouldn't be part of anybody's vocabulary. And then they recovered in the restaurant. But after they recovered, some lies came to the forefront, stuff we were told that was blatantly not true. Then I went back to have a conversation with the desk manager, and then this other manager comes up, and the thought of de-escalating is not one they understand.
Right.
Escalation is what they understand. So, yeah, it's crazy stuff.
Or hotels have got to put in a little extra training right now because, customers are going to, it's, I don't want to say it's as bad as like say an airline situation when they're running late, customers their emotions get high, but you're not going to get room service right now. You're not going to get, you're not getting housekeeping. You're not getting all those things right now. I don't know where you stayed, but the 2 times I've had to travel, they were very clear up front. We can't do any housekeeping and we can't do any room service. So They'll do drop off, which I don't understand what the difference is on that. But so, someone's still delivering it to my door. But you're lucky you stayed in a hotel that had a restaurant.
They're all boutique hotels on the Jersey Shore. I'd rather stay at a Hilton. I've never had a bad experience at a Hilton, and if I have, the recovery was so over the top that it wouldn't even bother me.
Paul, I'm going to do you a favor. The next time you stay on the Jersey Shore, so Sandy Cerami has a beach house there. He would be more than happy. Just hit him up. You guys can room up, all right? And he can make you breakfast. He can make you lunches. He can make you dinners. The whole thing, all right? And so
I have no idea.
So we'll see if he practices what he says in here.
Tully says selling extended warranties is important for retention, 100%, because with a 40-mile tie back to the store for warranty stuff, there's not even a question of where they have to go. But here's the funny thing about that, is that most stores, not all, most stores really have no process for that. The process is the service advisor leaving the desk, walking the customer to the F&I person who's too busy to talk to that person.
So the real issue is, as an industry, and this goes for the marketing vendors all the way through, and it really starts at the OEM, at the vendor selling to the OEM.
Yeah.
There isn't one that does a true owner loyalty program, because a true owner loyalty program doesn't start once someone buys and only runs through service. So a true owner loyalty program, Paul had mentioned that I talk about doing it throughout the life cycle. You've got to take into consideration the different stages people are going through, right? The honeymoon stages, the maintenance stage. You've got to look at then pull ahead programs. And the reason that we don't as an organization is the way the OEMs are set up. They're set up in silos. You've got your after sales team.
Yeah.
You got your new car team. Right, you got it's set up for area managers, after sales area managers. Right, they have different sets of goals, and there's nothing that rewards them or incentivizes them to work together.
There's no
correct. And so what you're seeing is to sell to the OEM an owner loyalty program. Right,
yeah.
You go and all you do is talk to the after sales people as if it doesn't impact new cars at all. And so it all needs to work together. So I went to an OEM and unsuccessfully, I did not sell them, or this would not be a thing, but I went to them and says, you guys, it would require an OEM to almost look at how their entire organization is structured in terms of how they're incentivizing, whether it's through co-op and what they want their owner loyalty program to actually be.
Co-op's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, they would actually save a tremendous amount of money, because a lot of times they're paying co-op twice to vendors, because the dealer has to work with this vendor to do this. They have to work with this vendor to do that. Here's my new car ad that I'm running. Here's something I'm going to do with service. They're paying this company data charges. And whether we itemize that on the invoice or not, we're all being billed to get the data, right? And we all have to do that work. And so instead of it all being and having some type of synergy there, all right, that's not happening. And so to me, the OEM drives that, and that is as big of a problem on that end. If the OEMs got involved in that, instead, we're going to start looking at companies that can take this from beginning to end. Truly, how are we going to market people before their customers? How do we nurture the lead, push them down the funnel? All right, once they're sold, then they go in through this. And then at a certain point, depending on the customer, because we know how their driving patterns are, we know their mileage.
All the data.
Every customer's different. They should then start doing pull ahead programs, mentioning at what point do we start mentioning the tires? At what point do we, and then it's time for another car. We should also be finding out what else they do, because the easiest thing to conquest, all right, is to increase the share of driveway instead of a brand new customer that has zero relationship with us.
Right.
So we tend to, as an industry, think, I need to replace that car you bought from me. Well, the average person owns more than one car, not average family, household. So how about replacing the other one that they bought from the dealer down the road? You know,
Bingo. And we have the data. We have the data is available to us to know, not only to know what the other car is, but we know right down to the household level what that family's doing.
correct.
We know with artificial intelligence that they spend X amount of time at soccer fields.
Paul, I'm remarketing customers that visit my competitors' websites. So remarketing is one of the cheapest, at least it's one of the most efficient digital forms, right, of marketing, because they've shown an interest. So and your store's in my market, right, and I can identify everyone that's going to your website, and I'm going to start serving them remarketing ads on Facebook and the Google Display Network and everything like that. It's outstanding. Yeah. But a lot of people, it takes up time to set that up. But once you do that, you get a much better ROI on all that. So
doesn't the investment in time always pay off?
Yes. Well, it isn't just the time of setting it up. How about once you're involved and you're doing that stuff, you understand it at a much deeper level as well. And it's much easier to come up with better marketing strategies, right, when you actually understand how it all works. So,
yeah, it's not the generic, oh, we spent this much money, this is what we got.
Yeah.
It's a lot deeper than that. Let's see here. Paul Machine says, show local competitive market intelligence. Absolutely. You don't have to, I always say you don't have to be the cheapest, you just need to be in the game. Robert Sebastian, Sandy Cerami, yes, as we do, marketing dollars go much further and we become the only viable option, the highest rated option. Robert gives Tully the thumbs up emoji. Cerami says his show is on at 8 o'clock. That's the same time my wife's show is on Monday nights, but I'll catch it on the rerun for sure. Cy Sperling.
That's the guy with the same hair as him.
Okay. Leonard says, make your competitive pricing obvious.
Yes.
You know what? I drive an hour to service my car. They're not the cheapest.
Correct.
And they say that right on the board.
Yep.
And I don't care. They give me such great service. That's why I go there.
People will buy or pay more if they get the service that they want delivered the way they want it. So in other words, let's say you're clearly okay with dropping yours off. But if you want pickup and delivery, then the dealer has to do that, or you're not, or they're not retaining you.
Right.
So
Sandy says fixed ops is like a camera. What we focus on is what develops. Ed Roberts says absolutely. Roberts follows that up with a Sandy Cerami, amen. Paul says Scott is spot on. The messaging for customer lifecycle management begins before the customer even thinks about a particular dealer. Customers hear stories at lunch of how well they were taken care of at XYZ dealership. That is 100% true.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
When I see Paul's comment where it says Scott is spot on, I can't help but think he might want to be one of the most intelligent commenters we have.
Paul's right up there, man. But you wouldn't be partial on that comment, would you, Scott?
Absolutely not.
Paul says, agreed. Hilton takes me every time for the last 20 years. Dan Stedham. Hold on, where did it go here? This thing just blasted through. Oh, here we go. Dan Stedham, good, better, best, not just one price. Take it or leave it, especially the 10-year-old car they're leaving. Tom Kane preaches this. So I didn't hear back. Maybe Tully had to bolt, but I would definitely be interested in his take on the sliding scale labor based on age of car, because I think that'll help a lot of dealers with gaining back some of that business.
Yep.
Sandy Cerami, planes, trains, and automobiles. Robert Sebastian, hashtag foot stomping, amen. Robert Sebastian, Paul Machine, word of mouth is alive and well and exponentially multiplied by reviews. You know, it's 2020 and people still don't understand the value of reviews. Can you believe that, Scott? They still have no idea. You ask them, how many reviews did he have? I don't know. What's your score? I don't know. How do you compare to your competitor? I don't know. These are all things that should be on the tip of their tongues.
Yeah.
Paul Machine says, did you just say a service advisor should sell a warranty? These people are on service because they believe they care for a need and not sell service. Absolutely. How about this? How about you come in, you're out of warranty, and I take out my phone, I've got an app, I just plug in the VIN number, I put in the mileage, I ask you simply, are you gonna hold on, how long are you gonna hold on to your car for? I'm gonna run it till it dies. Great. I pop that in, it automatically populates either a stated component or exclusionary plan. I send that right to your email with a video and a PDF so you can see all of the coverage that you get at minimal per month. How many warranties do you think that'll sell? It's easy, yes, but a lot of them still won't do it. Paul Machine says, Robert Sebastian, we are not there yet. Sandy Cerami, I teach that all damn day. It's called Own the Driveway. Yes, that's getting back to get all the cars in the family. At Lexus, I can't tell you how many times somebody came in to just look for one car, and we sent the other person home to get the other car, and we spot delivered 2 cars. It happened very, very frequently. John Bannon, Sandy Cerami gets the thumbs up emoji. Sandy says, we start the process as we are delivering their vehicle to the customer. Russ Man, wow, a lot of great information. Thank you. Hey, Russ, I might want to recruit you to do some of the recaps for the Sunday Night Live. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Paul Machine says, my nephews tell me they want people to treat them as good as they treat me. I always say they may not be the cheapest, but they treat me the best. You have to pay for that. I had a young lady that's a server. I had a conversation with her about time and convenience and servicing her car. And she said, you know, I go to XYZ place and she says, I know I pay more, but they make it so easy. I'm in and out in 15 minutes. She says, I don't even have to get out of my car. I'll pay more money for that all day long. And all of us, we buy stuff today, and how often we can't buy really good stuff. It's crap. A machine that you spend $1,000 on 2 years later needs replacement.
I've gained 20 pounds during COVID. Okay. And part of that reason is because I'm willing to pay $12 for my ice cream when I could have drove to the store and paid $3. All right. But I pay the delivery charge so I can sit my butt down on the couch every now and then, watch a little television, do some work, and not have to get in my car to go get it. So people will pay more for the service that they want at that time.
And the quality. I want to pay more for quality. I'm tired of buying what I think is the best thing to have it be a piece of crap and need to replace it 2 years later. You just can't buy good stuff today. Speaking of ice cream, Scott, I tend to live stream when I have some of my meals. So I had stopped for an ice cream snack today, and I have my own chocolate sprinkles that I bring with me. I sprinkled them on. I reached like 11,000 people in a few hours, and almost 5,000 people watch me eat ice cream online. It's sad, but the point is, dealers, you can get that kind of traction in social media if you just apply a little bit of elbow grease to it. Jared Kalfa says, reviews are the testimonials and good housekeeping seal of approval of the 1980s, 90s, etc. Even better as you are getting independent peer-based feedback, 100%.
Yeah.
Russ, just throwing it out there. Love it. Wink, wink. Sandy says, great show, Paul. Great content. Thank you. Whoa, it's 9:04. We've gone over. Well, Scott, we could go on for hours and hours because you are a wealth of information. You know so much stuff, which is one of the reasons I like you so much. But we just don't have that much time anymore. So I want to thank everybody for watching the show today. If you got value from it and you think it would help you at your dealership or at a friend's dealership, by all means, share this broadcast. And so Monday nights is Sandy's show at 8 o'clock. Where does he broadcast?
On Facebook.
On Facebook. So Sandy Cerami, friend him on Facebook so you can watch his show.
And by the way, Linda Hansen, Grader's. Did I say Grader's ice cream? Or did I just say ice cream?
You said ice cream.
Yeah. So she has got the company I use. It is Grader's. There's nothing better.
Well, like you, Sandy, I mean, Scott, I've probably put on a few pounds also since January. I was in a food coma today. I was like, so again, thank you very much. John says, thank you guys. And Linda says they're the best in Cincinnati. So, and you have a show also, right? When is your show on?
I do on DWin. So it's live on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. The first and third Thursday of every month at 3:00 Eastern time.
Awesome. So let's all support each other. We're all in the same community.
And then the Move Crush Count podcast.
Love it. Again, thank you very much. Yeah.
Before you leave, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate what you're doing here. And I appreciate you asking me on here. I think you do a great job with it.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it, man.
Yep.
So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Have a great week coming up.
Thank you.